consume, okay, how we behave as consumers, and supply is about how we behave as suppliers or producers. And here's, make no mistake about it, even now as students, to consume in order to get to the college that you want to go to get into the career that you want to go to and so forth, what you demand, or to purchase items that you wish to buy, what you demand, you have to produce. You have to be a good supplier or producer, okay? So demand and supply and their interaction is kind of very critical to understand as an economic concept. So let me, all right. So it's all about choice, really, when we think about, demand and the power of substitutes. So like, for example, like if I have limited resources in terms of not just money, but in terms of time. But let's give an example here. If I had given my budget, if I have a situation where a prescription drug that's available to help me with a pathology that I have would cost $50, that's $50 I don't have to spend in some other way. So what I would want to know is as a patient and so forth, is there another product that I could use that's off the shelf or a generic or whatever, or a non-branded drug, or even a natural remedy that's less expensive that would still give me the benefits that I need and so forth in terms of wellness, to allow me to spend my money elsewhere or allocate my resources elsewhere. So here's the thing, like if there's alternatives, there's substitutes. If there's no alternative, there's no substitute. But like, in fact, the matter, all of us are trying to, figure out if we can trade off less of something that we value, either our money or our time or our effort, to still achieve our desires. And here's the thing that's interesting about demand and substitutes and so forth. What works for me may not work for you. For example, being in the pharmaceutical industry for a while, branded medications and so forth have a higher potency than a generic. So generic doesn't have to, in terms of the molecule, doesn't have to match the same efficacy features. But let's say if I had GERD or intestinal problems, or heartburn, I can basically, if I get benefit from a over-the-counter Prilosec, and it costs me $10 versus a $35 prescription for Nexium or whatever like that, and it gives, and I'm satiated or I feel better. That's a better utilization of my limited resources. However, for someone else, that may not be a silver bullet. What works for one may not work for another. I know from promoting drugs that were in the bipolar disorder and schizophrenia space, there was no silver bullet drug that made everybody healthy. Some people could take lithium, which is an established drug that provides a lot of people with control of their mania and have good benefits from that. Other people had side effects from it, or it didn't do the trick for them. So there's other choices out there in terms of Seroquel or Zyprexa or Abilify, just as examples in terms of products out there. So anyway, substitutability is a very important thing to understand demand. Okay. Now, this is very important that you capture this slide. And by the way, since we have these limitations of half-hour lectures, and I've only got 8 minutes left today, it's very important that you guys review these slides. And like, I'm going to record the last 15 minutes or 14 minutes after the quiz of the presentation and so forth. I created a YouTube video. According to my page, though, only one person watched it, so you're not required to watch it. But I will say this: you're doing yourself a disservice if you don't review the materials in the PowerPoint closely, okay? Because I just simply, in the time that we have available, did not have time to go over this sufficiently, in these little 30-minute lectures. So anyway, make sure you grasp this. This is a very important thing. You'll see this on the quiz next week. What's the law of demand? Okay. Now, it's interesting when demand and supply work in opposite directions. So basically, the way we demand is basically, or consume, is as prices go up, the quantity demand goes down. So there's an inverse relationship between price and quantity demand. So in other words, if the price of milk is going down, I'm more likely to to consume organic, milk than I would be almond milk. If the price is going up, I'm more likely to buy almond milk. And if the price of almond milk is it goes up relative to other choices I have, like oat milk or soy milk or whatever like that, I may choose to reduce my consumption of those products. So just know, like there's this demand is all about how we behave and act as consumers. So there's this inverse relationship between price and the quantity of demand. There's other things that cause demand to change, and I'll go over those later. But there's this downward sloping curve where basically, like, as you can see here, at a lower price point, we demand more of a product. The quantity we demand of it is higher than as prices rise. So as prices increase, okay, this is 0 and this is N or whatever like that, or higher price. As prices increase, we demand less of a product, and as prices fall, we demand more. We're willing to buy more of it. Now, these forces of demand don't just exist for how we behave as individual consumers. They exist for how we behave in an enterprise. I'm more likely to buy more of something. Let's say I remember when I was in the fireplace business, I would buy in bulks or larger containers of marble or granite if I could get a premium price. If the price went up for buying the container, it was better off sometimes to just buy a 6-pack or 12-pack from a local vendor because there wasn't much advantage to buying locally. And then you can apply this to industry. You can apply it to a overall domestic economy or a global economy. So just remember this kind of thing: the the relationship between price and quantity demand is inverse. Okay. Now with supply, just the opposite occurs. I'm going to bebop down to this. And we'll go back over this later. With supply, it works like this. Come on now. Oop. Okay, I went too far. Basically, you can see here if there we go. Here it is. Okay, with supply, as prices rise, I'm willing to produce more of something, right? So think about this in terms of if the benefit for me studying more improves my grades or improves my opportunity, my chance to get into a better school or whatever like that, or achieve my goals or whatever, I'm more willing to expend more time and so forth because the payoff is higher. On the other hand, if I'm working a job, if I'm more willing to trade off my leisure time for a job that pays a higher wage than a lower wage. This is one reason why when you think about like opportunity costs and supply, as basically as wages rise, people are more willing to give up their leisure time to and work more hours, like with overtime. People get paid time and a half because there's an opportunity cost in terms of childcare, in terms of maybe having to go out to eat, or the sacrifice of leisure or family time that one gives up. So just like there's an inverse relationship with the law of demand between price and quantity we demand, with the law of supply, the quantity supplied of a good or a service increases as the relative price rises. So there's a direct relationship between price and output. So remember these things. It's very important because you'll see them on the quiz. Law of demand is how we behave as consumers. There's an inverse relationship between prices and the quantity that we demand. Okay, and so basically, as prices rise, the quantity we demand of something falls. On the other hand, with the law of supply, just the opposite occurs. There's a direct relationship. As we're willing to produce more, or the quantity we supply or produce increases as prices or wages go up. Make sense? That's all about how we behave as producers. And believe me, brothers and sisters, you are both, okay? All right, so I wanna make sure we hit that. Let me go back here to demand. All right. Okay. Now, this is interesting. There's a difference between the quantity demand and demand itself. The quantity demanded illustrates the specific quantity of a good or service that we demand at a particular price. But the demand from one point to another point on the demand schedule is basically also influenced by other factors. And I want to go over what this gives you an example. This is a demand curve for water, like in a city. I'll go to this. So basically in a city and so forth, an American town, if the demand for, if the price of water is 7 cents a gallon, basically consumers are only willing to buy about 25 million gallons of water per day. Okay, because at that price and so forth, they'd rather have bottled water or other drinks and so forth that they value more. However, prices fall, okay, the demand for water goes up. Where like basically if it's about 0.5 cents a gallon, and so as opposed to 7 cents a gallon, the demand is about 340 million gallons a day. So this gives you an example on a local level about how demand curves work. Okay. Now make sure you watch these videos. There's a good video here on demand. There's another one on supply. So okay, okay, and you know what? I'm out of time. Okay, God bless you guys. Go over some of the materials on demand. I'm going to talk about the changes or factors that influence the demand curve on Tuesday. Go over supply a little bit more on factors that cause the supply curve to shift, and talk a little bit about price elasticity. God bless you. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on Tuesday. Take care. Stay healthy and safe. Ciao.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see everybody. Okay. Blessings.